Hi, friends! Join us as we dive into the themes, metaphors, and foreshadowing of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. With both a spoiler and spoiler free analysis, there's something here for everyone. We are your hosts, Leah,
Sarah, Tabby,
and whether you're a new viewer or a longtime fan, welcome to Becoming Buffy.
Hello, and welcome back to Becoming Buffy. Today we are talking about Season 3, Episode 16, Doppelgangland. And I just want to take a minute to pause and recognize that we are almost through Season 3. And I know we say this like every few episodes, but it just feels like we are breezing through this season. And I cannot believe that we are going to be in Season 4 in just a few months. Like, that just blows my mind.
Well, it's insane. And I mean, even before we started recording, we were just talking about how much, the podcast has grown, not only just since the beginning, but also, since season 3 in general. It's not the biggest podcast ever, but, to us, it's way bigger than we ever thought it would be. And I think it's just, so cool to see. And I feel like this season, it has a lot of meat in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the reason why it's gone by so fast to us is because there's just every episode is exciting to talk about.
All right, so Doppelgangland. I feel like this episode is a fan favorite. I feel like everybody really enjoys this one. It's just very different from the usual Buffy formula. It focuses on Willow, someone I feel like we haven't seen a whole lot of this season. It's her first Willow-centric episode, and I feel like it's long overdue looking at where she's at and what's going on in her life. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. So written and directed by Joss Whedon, aired February 23rd, 1999. This episode is Whedon's 5th favorite episode, according to the Last Sundown featurette on the complete 7th season on DVD box set. And Joss is quoted as saying, "Because one Willow is certainly not enough." Joss actually ended up writing this episode because he loved Vamp Willow so much from The Wish. And I'm really glad he did, because I think it's long overdue that Willow's had her own episode. Allison Hannigan listed Doppelgangland as her 4th favorite Buffy episode to shoot. She said, "I was in the vampire Willow outfit and Alexis had some holy water and he made this noise like and it just cracked me up. I had such a crush on him." Noel Murray from the AV Club commented that the episode is terrific on a myriad of levels, from the dialogue to the plot twists to the multiple spot-on character moments, but mostly it's a top-drawer episode for the way it binds the Buffyverse together by demonstrating how adept the writing staff is at remembering everything they've done on the show before and reusing the elements that still have plenty of juice in there, which 100%, the way they just weave all of the elements from past episodes is one of my favorite parts of the show, for sure. So the title Doppelgangland comes from a mashup of Doppelganger and Gangland, which Gangland was a TV series that explored the history of some of America's most notorious gangs. And Doppelganger, so Wikipedia talks about how in fiction and mythology, a doppelganger is often portrayed as a ghostly or paranormal phenomenon and is usually seen as a harbinger of bad luck. Other traditions and stories equate a doppelganger with an evil twin or a mirror image or reflection. In the myths, it absolutely doesn't mean that one is all good and the other one is all evil. For instance, the generous one can be violent and the peaceful one can be greedy. It's just the idea that there are two sides of one whole. In modern times, the term twin stranger is occasionally used. The word doppelganger is often used in a more general and neutral sense, and in slang to describe any person who physically resembles another person yet is not related to them. Within media and literature, it's often used to describe the duality of human nature. And a lot of people used to be very, very superstitious about it and still kind of are. They often see doppelgangers as harbingers of death. So I thought this was kind of interesting. So the English poet Percy Shelley, which I don't think there's a coincidence that his name is Percy. I think Joss intentionally named the basketball star Percy. So he wrote a drama called Prometheus Unbound. It contains the following passage in Act 1, and I quote, "Ere Babylon was dust, the Magus Zoroaster, my dead child, met his own image walking in the garden. That apparition, soul of men, he saw. For know there are two worlds of life and death, one that which thou beholdest, but the other is underneath the grave, where do inhabit the shadows of all forms that think and live, till death unite them and they part no more, which I feel like is a little on the nose for what happens in this episode. But it's really interesting to note that Percy drowned in the Bay of Spezia near Lerici, I'm probably totally butchered that, in Italy, on October 15th while staying at Pisa. His wife, Mary Shelley, an author and editor, wrote a letter to Maria Gisborne in which she relayed Percy's claims to her several weeks or months before, where he had said that he had met his own doppelganger. A week after Mary's near-fatal miscarriage in the early hours, Percy had had a nightmare about the house collapsing in a flood, and then a couple weeks later, he ended up drowning. So to them, it kind of perpetuated the idea that it was a harbinger of death and stuff, which a little eerie.
Dang, that's intense. All I think about is the fact that Allison Hannigan was on How I Met Your Mother, and they had like a whole running
They had a
joke about
running thing
everyone's
with doppelgangers.
Stripper Lily.
Yep, that's what I think of.
Stripper
Oh, I
Lily,
love that.
lesbian Robin, Mexican fighting wrestler Ted. Barney had the
OBGYN.
he faked his doppelganger for a little bit, but it was the OBGYN.
Yep.
And then
Oh, that was so funny because Lily was like, no, I ain't falling for this. Oh, that show is so irreverent. It's so funny.
I don't think Marshall had one.
No, he did because they found all 5. I just can't remember what his was.
He was the mustache person on like the truck that would pass by.
Oh, you're right. It was the Telenova guy.
Yeah.
That show. I have a love-hate relationship with it. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. So we talked before about how this episode is hugely important for Willow's arc. It's also a huge metaphor for Buffy's doppelganger or shadow self, Faith, which is something I never caught until I was watching it this time. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this really is a huge metaphor for what Buffy's going through, which I really like whenever the show does that. Since this season is all about shadow selves, it's interesting that Joss would choose to have Willow kind of be her own shadow self, which is really funny because you have Wesley and Giles and then Faith and Buffy. And then here you have it's almost like Willow's her own worst enemy, which I thought was very, very fitting.
Oz and his werewolf side. Angel and Angelus. Xander, misogyny.
Xander's misogyny.
No, it's supposed to be opposite of him.
Oh.
It's like Xander and feminism.
In a feminist show, works.
I think they had Larry kind of being that at least it was in
Phases.
In Phases. I keep wanting to say Pangs, not Pangs. Yeah, and then I think they've also contrasted him in like even in Beauty and the Beast. It was kind of like Xander and all the positive male figures in a lot of the episodes, which is really funny. So Mark Fields, in his book Myth, Metaphor, and Morality, wrote, because it's a point of view episode, we see the world as Willow does. This means that everyone is constantly ordering her around and she's never able to assert herself. It also means that Willow's still a little unhappy about Buffy's rejection of her and Bad Girls and thinks that Bad Girls get to have all the fun without the responsibility she's being saddled with, which is really funny because that's something that Buffy kind of felt like in the episode Bad Girls. So this episode is Willow's exploration of what it would be like to be bad for a change. In essence, this is Willow's bad girl episode, which is funny. Anya also kind of contrasts Willow in this episode. She feels out of place and uncomfortable in her body and where she's at, and that's a little bit of a reflection of how Willow feels as well. Passion the Nerd made this statement, which I kind of agree with. He says, the only weakness of this episode is that it undercuts the tone of the season a bit. And he talks about how like it's good for Willow's character, but it's a bit jarring to go from watching Faith have a mental breakdown and almost kill Xander to just hanging out with the gang and taking psych tests. It feels a bit anticlimactic. What did you guys think of this episode?
I mean, I love this episode. I think it's funny, and I like that I hate Joss, but I do like that he recognizes which characters are useful to come back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I like that him and other writers in the show pay attention to what works well and what just makes a more cohesive show. And we have Anya come back, which is such like a one-off character that you're like, okay, like I'm here for it. Like, did not see her coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just interesting. I feel like we really have not gotten to see a lot of Willow this season.
Yeah.
And so I do agree that the placement of it is a little weird, but I also am like, you know what? I'm ready to see more Willow.
Yeah, we'll allow it. It's good.
I do think that this episode should not have been placed exactly after Consequences. If it was switched with the next one, I feel like that would make a lot more sense. If this was after Bad Girls, I'd be like, okay, sure. But I think since it's right after Consequences, like Faith almost murdering Xander and like trying to like rape him, like is like such extremes. And then to go from that into like, oh, she's back in like the library being trained, even though like it's obviously everyone's like on edge and awkward. Like I don't think that would like be even just like a normal thing that she walks in. Everyone's like, hey, you know what I mean? Like it feels a little bit too fresh.
Yeah, especially too because we know that she went over to side with the mayor, and so I think that I always think the anticipation is that, oh, she's no longer hanging out with the Scoobies. They're just going to find out she's with the mayor now. But then to see her with them, you're like, wait a minute. And then you realize she's playing double agent, but it just feels very whiplashy.
So we have this opening scene that's supposed to be a mausoleum, even though it looks just like a set that we've normally seen. They just throw like rugs and curtains and candles and essence in there to make it look creepy. We see this like kingpin version of like a demon talking to Anya, telling her that I think it's a little bit like, it's been like a few months probably since the wish happened, but he's like, you know, reprimanding her now, which is funny. And we get this little dialogue from her. I love when the show does this, where they kind of give you insight to a character without making it feel forced, because she's like trying to defend herself. So Anya says, for 1,000 years I yielded the powers of the wish. I thought ruin to the heads of unfaithful men. I brought destruction and chaos. I was feared and worshipped across the mortal globe, and now I'm stuck in Sunnydale High. And I think it's cool because we sit there and we're like, oh, okay, so she's been doing this for 1,000 years. We get a little bit of insight, but then we're also understanding where she's at in this current time in the show.
And I'm flunking math. I was like, relatable, Anya.
True, though. I mean, if she hasn't been like doing anything in education for 1,000 years,
and they drop her,
I would forget everything.
Yeah, she's probably struggling. Poor thing, needs a tutor. Gotta call up Willow.
I'm like, this girl has so much built up anger this whole episode. I get it, girl. If you don't know anything to do with math.
It's also funny because it's like we're getting this random like backstory to a character that was such a one-off. You're like, okay,
technically the villain of the wish.
Yeah, you're like, dang, I would be mad too. I'd be a villain too if I had to go through math again.
I love that she's just been hanging around the high school this entire time.
Just being miserable.
Yeah.
Not being able to do anything.
She's in the back of the class, like, mumbling.
His response is like, this is no concern to us. You will live out your mortal life and die.
I know,
like, dang.
You are dismissed. Goodbye.
Literally. I think that this interaction with Buffy and Willow is one of my favorites of season 3. I feel like we see them very naturally friends. They're very sweet and very like tender with each other. Buffy has some like really good dialogue here that's really telling with where she's at emotionally as well. Or Willow's floating a pencil, Buffy's doing crunches, and then Willow says that in order to float, it's all about emotional control. And then they start talking about faith. And then Willow says competition is normal and healthy. And then Buffy combats it with, well, she's had it rough, different circumstances, that could be me. And then Willow says, no way, some people just don't have that in them. What do you guys think about that dialogue?
I honestly, I agree with Buffy. I think it's just like to a certain degree, I do think that Faith and stuff has kind of chosen a lot of the path that she's on, but I also do think that it's like, in a way, like Buffy did get set up with a better situation than Faith did. So it's like, I still do think that if paths were switched, Buffy would have chosen the right thing, but it's like, I mean, we even see in The Wish what Buffy was like when she didn't have the opportunity that she did in Sunnydale to be set up with a good watcher and have friends and stuff, and she was a lot more cold and callous, and I think that that's kind of the situation with Faith.
I do think that there is a case of a ripple effect, because we see 3 different ways that Buffy could turn out in the Sunnydale, but in like the Sunnydale lore, like world. We saw how Buffy was before she came to Sunnydale, and if she'd stayed there, she would have been just like a Cordelia-esque character. And then if she went to Cleveland, she would have been that Buffy, and she would have had that set of issues. And then when she came to Sunnydale, she became this Buffy. I think it's like where you're at kind of shapes you. Your parents, your school, your friends, and like all that shapes you in such a formative time in your life, like high school. And I think that Sunnydale obviously is the best Buffy, but I think that Sunnydale Buffy obviously would handle killing someone very differently because we saw that in Ted. So I definitely think there is a ripple effect in how your upbringing and what your life has been like. And I think that Faith is a victim of that. Is she still responsible for what she did? Absolutely. But I think there is a bone to throw at her for that. There is empathy for her because she's still a baby. She's still like a minor. She's still so young.
This is the classic nature versus nurture question, which is almost impossible to answer. I think it's a little bit easier to answer within the scope of the Buffyverse because, like you said, Tabby, we have instances of the Wish. We even have like Kendra coming in, who's supposed to be kind of an example, a mirror of Buffy. It's interesting because I think Buffy recognizing that she is the healthier and I would say superior Slayer because she knows her limitations and because she's had friends as like a check and balance. And she has had privilege in having, great parents or at least a great mother and a great father figure in Giles, et cetera, et cetera. I think that she recognizes that's why she's been able to accomplish certain things and that's why she's where she's at in life. And I really love that she doesn't lord that over Faith, but recognizes it and it keeps her humble. However, it is a little bit hard to fully know who to side with in this argument with Willow versus Buffy in the sense that Willow is arguing for nature and Buffy's arguing for nurture. Buffy's saying, I would be Faith if I had different circumstances. And Willow's saying, no, you are who you are because it's in your nature. It's who you are. I feel like I'm not communicating very well today, but you guys get it. Joss has said many times that Faith is who Buffy would never let herself be. So I think Joss is arguing actually more for Willow's side, saying that Buffy doesn't have it in her and could never be that. And I think that's kind of what the show is trying to edge itself towards. But then again, we don't truly know. So I don't know. I think that the writers recognize that Buffy could and would never be like Faith because of who she is. But I think the series tries to leave it a little bit more open-ended. So all that's a really long way of saying I'm not really sure where I fall on it because I'd like to believe that Buffy could never get to that point, but I don't think there's enough evidence to swing either way, if that makes sense.
It's a hard topic for sure,
Yeah.
Especially when you have mirror selves and like mirror partners and characters on shows. You're like, this is getting really convoluted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to actually say to us right now?
Yeah, I think the important takeaway is that Buffy recognizes that she could just as easily fall into the exact same things that Faith is falling into, and that she is humble and is willing to help Faith. And I really like what you said, Tabby, about how Buffy is 100% Faith's advocate in all these scenes. She's advocated for her with Giles. Now she's advocating for her with Willow. And I think that people who say that Buffy never accepted Faith and was jealous of her and didn't want her to be a part of her life because of that jealousy.
I was about to say, I was like, going through this, especially there's parts that I feel like are little gaps in my knowledge. And one of them was like how Buffy treated Faith specifically. And I didn't think she treated her horribly, but I was like, I wonder like how much of an arm she like stretched out to her, And so like, even though we don't see a ton of that necessarily, I really do feel like the way that friends talk about you when you're not around tells you how much that they will do in the relationship to keep you around.
But I don't think it's just about how Buffy talked about Faith. I think she says all that to Faith. And she also actively stands up for Faith and makes so many ways for Faith to come to her. And so it's like, it's not just words. Like Buffy in every aspect really is fighting for Faith. And I think that's what's so interesting and beautiful about Buffy is that it's like Faith, at this point, in most people's opinions, doesn't deserve the chances anymore.
I think Buffy and Faith have, and it's being shown over and over again, Buffy and Faith have a connection that nobody else on this show has. I mean, I love the connection that Buffy and Angel have for sure, but Faith and Buffy have a bond that even Angel can never understand because they're both slayers. They both understand each other on an intrinsic level. And so Buffy is able to advocate very well for Faith because she knows what she's going through. She knows the loneliness and the acceptance and the love and all that stuff that she longs for.
Oh, okay. And then we go into Snyder's office.
Snyder,
love
where have
Percy.
you been, man?
No. We're talking about Percy.
No, Snyder.
We literally haven't seen Snyder in episodes.
Since Band Candy.
I want to talk about Percy. I love
Okay,
Percy.
go ahead. I know you love Percy. Go ahead.
I just like this episode. The dynamic between him and Willow is the funniest thing to me. The actor who played Percy is just like, he has like this like endearing characteristic about him, but then he's also just kind of like a jerk, but he's also so funny at the same time. He's so I can't say that. I can't say that. I hate the non-spoiler version so much.
Tabby, I think you have a thing for the jocks who are kind of a little like, or at least pretend to be dumb, who are a little like misguided. You like, was it Gage in Go Fish?
I just like their dynamic with the characters. Not that I have the hots for them. Jeez.
She's saying that you have a soft spot for them, not that you're into them.
Oh.
Yeah. Because you're like, you kept talking about Gage, how sad you were that like he was like really sweet with Buffy and then like he ends up dying.
It's
and then
because
with Percy,
all of the high school guys at Sunnydale High are literal douchebags and the worst. And so when I see one that's like funny and endearing, I'm like, please stay. We need more of you.
I mean, Percy's not great, but he definitely gets better as time goes on, sure.
I just think that he blends really well with Willow's character. I think they're so funny.
Yeah. This whole interaction, I was dying. You want us to breed?
Well, and then the whole time Percy's not saying a word. He's just sitting there chewing. He's like, he does not give a rat's, he does not care at all. He looks at Willow and says, you got the brains, he's got the fast break. And then they mentioned the swim team last year. It's funny that you mentioned that about Gage, because they were like, oh, we need a winning year, especially since what happened with the swim team last year.
Bro, I need them not to mention that. That episode was traumatic. I'm like, I don't need to know.
You're like, I remember just fine. Thank you very much. So this whole interaction, this whole scene feels very much like when Snyder was telling Willow that she needed to fudge the grades for Gage and the rest of the swim team, and where he basically threatens her. He also threatens her here again in this one without, using words and stuff. And so I really like that they're building on those themes, and they specifically do mention Go Fish, I think, because of that dynamic. And so I think they're trying to show a pattern of Willow being manipulated, or not manipulated, but like being a pushover, and not being assertive and sticking up for herself.
Well, I think it's funny because last year they were like, oh, fudge the grades. But this year they're like, okay, we'll have someone else tutor her. But then it's like, you think about it and you're like, doesn't Willow do a law on campus?
Or if you're going to have a student do it, they have to like volunteer.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to just be like, hey, you, go help the athlete, the star athlete over here.
And then Snyder's like, we know that you love teaching. I'm like, yes, that's because a teacher died. Thank you very much.
And that's because
she was forced her to teach.
Yeah. No, Snyder, you love to have her teach, not Willow over. I mean, I think Willow did enjoy it at times, but like not being forced to do it.
I'm sure that was very traumatic for her to have to like teach an entire class to peers when her favorite teacher died. Like, that's traumatic.
Snyder's whole thing of like, Rosenberg, it's time to give something back to the community. I know you want to help your school out here. We talked about this in Go Fish. It was very much the team player mentality. And that's a running theme throughout this season and throughout the show. And this whole rhetoric is something that the mayor has been pushing when he's talking about community and stuff. And it shows how a leader influences and controls their community. And that can be either for good or for really bad.
We jump to the library where Willow's talking to Buffy about it. And then she walks in and she's like, I just hate when people are such bullies and they just assume my time is theirs. And Giles is like, hey, Willow, can you look on the internet and spy on the mayor? And she's like, oh, sure.
Yeah. Poor Willow.
Well, I mean, it's also different because A, that's actually for something useful. And B, he's asking, not telling her.
I don't know. I felt like he was telling her.
Also, I gotta say, Sarah, Giles has a lollipop.
What? No,
he's sexualized, and I'm sexualizing him because he's a lollipop.
This whole episode is through Willow's point of view, so we know she has a crush on him.
Oh my gosh.
Just kidding. No, yeah. I mean, come on. Everybody has lollipops.
Nope, only people who want to be sexualized. Which is gross because also the connotation with lollipops is children.
Yeah, the Lolita effect.
Let's dive into that, guys.
No, let's not.
Leah's so funny to look at right now because she's like
burritoed.
I don't even know what's the
Cocooned.
Cocooned. I was like, cahoon. I'm like, what am I trying to say? Cocooned in her bed right now. Her head is peeking out.
It's cold in the room and it's daylight savings. I'm tired.
All right, so what did you guys think of Faith's outfit in this episode? Because I
So
was like,
cute.
it's cute, but it's also so much lighter, and her look is so much softer than we've seen before.
I put that down. I think that she's trying to play a part. And I think now that she is like with the mayor, I think that she's trying to act as normal, in quotes, as possible, but she's not acting like Faith. Like even when like Buffy was walking by and she like awkwardly like touched her arm and was like, good luck, you're like, girl, you didn't do this beforehand. You could just be your normal self. No one would think anything.
I kind of read it as Faith doesn't know herself this episode. She's kind of like she is betraying the gang. She just kind of made a huge life decision. Like she doesn't really know where she fits in places. Like I think it's just kind of Faith is out of place and she's trying not to look like it.
I feel like, I mean, I know we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I kind of feel like how they're handling Faith in this episode is how they should have handled it from the start before things escalated. How they're like, hey, like, we're going to just keep a little bit closer of an eye on you. We're going to do some evaluations. We're going to do some, tests. We're basically going to just like incorporate you in the Slayer training, all that other stuff. And it feels a little bit too little too late at this point. And I don't really know what everyone's thinking. Like, oh, we're just going to like hang out with her and hopefully she doesn't murder anybody else. Like what?
And we jump straight into the mayor buys her like a little apartment, which is
that ain't
so
little,
sweet.
Dude. That's a pretty big apartment.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that's like a very nice apartment.
Yeah.
But it's like fully furnished and she's like so happy. Like I was watching the scene. I was like, oh, like I've never seen her like this genuinely happy since she's come in.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is the most joyful, Passion the Nerd talks about it too, that we've seen her before. Also, it's really interesting because I feel like a lot of the men in Faith's life have sexualized her.
Totally.
And I think that we've talked about it before, she wields her sexuality as a weapon. And in this scene, the mayor shuts that down immediately. And I think Faith is comfortable in that arena because that's what she's used to. But by him saying like, no, I'm a family man. I'm not comfortable with that dynamic. I think it's reassuring to Faith because the mayor sees that side, like sees the, I will say evil in quotes, the evilness in Faith, or at least like what she's doing is not great, and he's still like accepting her and like actually rewarding her with stuff. And so I think Faith feels the most comfortable around him than with any other character we've seen. Passion the Nerd talks about how their dynamic works because they are reflections of each other. He says, in this season, we've watched Faith struggle for a connection and stumble due to her own trust issues, as well as some missteps by the people around her. You could see her reaching for love and connection, but unable to break past those barriers. But the mayor knows she's duplicitous. He sees all sides of her. She can be herself. It may be evil, underhanded, and unhealthy, but their relationship feels honest. And I think she reflects his own dichotomy. The mayor is evil with a sweet side, and Faith is sweet with an evil side, which I thought was really well said.
Well, I think it's just in Faith's mind, I think she can justify a lot of things because she's like, well, the mayor is the one who's protecting me. The mayor is the one who cares about me. So therefore, the things that he's doing are good for me.
Right. She feels accepted and like no one's going to judge me for being who I am. It's really interesting because we see Faith kind of trying on the bad girl persona here, like with the mayor. And it's very, very similar to Willow later on in the episode trying on the bad girl persona as well through her doppelganger. I mean, at this point, Faith isn't fully bad. We see her wrestle with killing Buffy, and she's uncomfortable with the mayor's suggestion. And so I think that shows that Faith isn't completely gone yet. And then Oz. Haven't seen Oz in a while. With
this interaction is so sweet.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Every time Oz is on the screen, I'm just like, oh.
I feel like this is the most Oz we've gotten in a while in this episode.
Yeah, it is.
And he has his dark hair. That's my favorite look of his, is when he has like the really dark brown.
It makes his eyes look really green. Like they look really good.
He mentions that he had a gig in Monterey. Willow said that she didn't know about it, and he just was like, "Oh, I assumed that you didn't want to go because of school." And then she reads it as like "Oh, everyone thinks I'm boring," and then he goes, "Radical interpretation of the text."
Okay, what did you guys think of Willow's outfit, like the pink outfit that she wears for the rest of the episode? Because I feel like it's probably the willowiest outfit that we've ever seen on her.
I also think same thing with Willow, not Willow. Same thing with Faith, where it's trying to contrast like kind of Faith's normal look. I think it's supposed to contrast Vampire Willow because she's wearing like red and black, and she's like corseted, and it's pants, and it's very like
Leather
sexy and all this stuff, and leather. Whereas like I feel like with Willow, it's like a cute little skirt and a fuzzy pink sweater. Like it's really supposed to be showing a
big
contrast.
daisies on it, and totally.
We find out that Oz is playing at the Bronze later on tonight. That will come into play.
Oh, I will lock that away.
Outside in the courtyard, Willow runs up to Percy to kind of talk to him about his paper. He's supposed to write a research paper on one of the Roosevelts. Do we even know which Roosevelt it is?
Nope. And Percy doesn't either, apparently.
Yeah, he doesn't. He blows her off, tells her to do it for him. He says, just type it up and put my name on it. And he's like, oh, but don't type very good because that's a dead giveaway.
Oh my gosh.
Which is smart. Buffy and Xander come up. They called her old reliable because they didn't take notes from a class beforehand. And then she gets really hurt by that phrase as well, which I get where she's coming from. It's like if you're hearing this over and over again in the same day and you're like being forced to do someone else's homework and you're like, I don't want to be doing this. I'm saving the world every night. Like I'd be very frustrated as well.
It's interesting because, I mean, we talked about this, but Willow has had a really rough string of episodes the past few, like Bad Girls and Consequences. Everyone has expectations of her, and she wants to be valued for herself and for the contributions that she can bring. And she's like, it's not all of who I am. And I think this is kind of a continuation of verification of what I was saying about her crying in the bathroom. I don't think that her crying in the bathroom was specifically because of Xander, even though I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Willow is just feeling incredibly left out. And I think she's been down for a while, and the whole Faith and Xander thing just added to it. And I think there's probably a part of her that thinks that if she wasn't herself, that if she was more of a bad girl, that maybe Xander would be attracted to her. Maybe Buffy would let her go out and fight a little bit more. And then Snyder wouldn't want her to help with Percy. Maybe if she wasn't so reliable, she wouldn't be forced to do all this stuff. And it's so funny because this is a lot of what Buffy was feeling in Bad Girls when she's like, I'm the one being responsible, and yet Faith gets out of everything. So I just really love the continuation of this theme.
And then Buffy runs up and like apologizes to her. Like Buffy is just like such a good friend in this episode. And then Willow does like the whole thing that Oz did where she's like, I need to storm off. You're kind of ruining my moment. And then we see her in the hallway and Anya goes up to her. She has a project or a spell and Willow says, oh, is it dangerous? She's like, no. She's like, well, can we pretend it is? Which is funny because at the very end when everything goes astray, she's like, magic is dangerous. It's not to be toyed with. Like, girl, a second ago you asked and pretended like it was dangerous.
Right. Well, I think Willow is wanting to do something different because she's trying to prove something to herself and to other people. But when she actually gets a taste of it, she's like, oh, I don't know if this is actually what I want.
Well, and I mean, we even saw in the conversation with Oz, she doesn't want to be boring. Like this whole episode was kind of like her feeling like she's boring and like no one wants to take her out on like fights and like no one wants to have sex with her. No one wants like besides Oz, but just like, girl, you literally have the best guy in the whole show. Like, please pay attention to him. But like, I think it's just like one of those things where it's like she's feeling unwanted because she feels boring.
Yes, she thinks it has something to do with her.
And so I think that she's like, oh yeah, I want to break rules. I want to do this. I want to blah. But then like when she actually gets there, she's like, oh, maybe not.
But then she also realizes, I mean, we'll get to it. She gets to that point and she recognizes, oh, there was nothing wrong with me in the first place. Like I can be confident and self-assured in who I am and I don't have to put on a persona of someone that I'm not or something that I'm not.
So we know that Anya is trying to find her necklace because we know what happened in the Wish, but no one else knows what happened in the Wish. I love how she had to draw the necklace.
Yeah, she like painted it. Looked like she took a lot of time to do that.
And then we see a little recap of the Wish that not Buffy. I keep wanting to call her Buffy because I'm so used to Buffy being the main person in an episode. That Willow sees. And then the spell doesn't get fully fulfilled. And then Willow was like, what was that? And then she could tell something weird was going on. And I do feel bad for Willow here too, because like Anya's being so rude. She like calls her like an idiot child. And then Willow decides to leave because she has to do someone else's homework.
It took me a very long time to figure out what exactly happened in that moment, but it was the sand that fell on Willow's hand, not on the plate, which is why Doppelganger Willow came into being and came pulled from. Because I was always like, wait, why was it specifically? Was it because Willow was doing the spell with her? But it's because the sand fell on her hand while they were doing the spell, which I was like, okay, you guys need to hold your hands a little bit farther apart if you need the sand to fall onto the plate. But anyway, nitpicky.
Well, I
whatever.
think it was supposed to be the point that she was too preoccupied with all those visions that she didn't move her hand away. Which makes sense because if they're trying to grab something from that world, if all the sand landed on the plate, then it would have been the necklace.
Well, but I also think it's supposed to show that they're both kind of inexperienced.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of supposed to show that it's like Willow really has no idea what she's doing. And I think Anya, we didn't get much backstory, but it didn't seem like she was doing much magic without her little pendant. So I think it's kind of showing they're both A, they're both stressed. Yeah. And B, for different reasons. And B, it's also just I think they're both a little inexperienced.
Yeah.
And then we see Vamp Willow wake up in the same warehouse, looks exactly the same in an alternate universe, which we've never seen before in this universe. I was like, what in the world? Where is this even supposed to be? And then she's walking the streets, eerily looking at everything. The way that Alison Hannigan changes all of her mannerisms and her head kind of slants down as Vampire Willow, which is an interesting character trait that she had for her.
So we mentioned this in the spoiler section, but this whole sequence where Willow or Vamp Willow is walking down through all of the alleyway and through the town of Sunnydale or whatever, it's supposed to be a shot-by-shot representation of Cordelia walking down the Broadway or the Boulevard in The Wish. And it's actually really cool. I'll put it on the Instagram, where they show them side by side, but it's pretty similar. It's kind of cool.
Well, and then the contrast of Cordelia walking down the street and no one's there.
Yes.
And then Vamp Willow walking down, everyone in the town seems to be there.
Yep. And they both end up at the Bronze, or near the Bronze at least, and it's just radically different.
Yeah, speaking of the Bronze, this girl who's singing, this song is fire, not gonna lie, but her hair, I was so distracted.
Yeah, this is Kay's Choice, Virgin State of Mind. The song is really interesting. So from Music, Sound, and Silence, the song does not feature on any of Kay's Choice's albums, suggesting it may have been specifically written for Buffy. Starting with a recording of children playing in a schoolyard, the wavering sound of a synthesizer/harmonium emerges, evoking a mix of childhood memories and psychedelia, perhaps conjuring association with the Beatles' Strawberry Fields. Over the top of this introduction to Virgin State of Mind, a deep female voice emerges singing a wordless melodic line, now also a defining stylistic feature of Gothic music. Used to accompany Willow's evil doppelganger as she arrives in the Bronze in this episode, the darkly surreal lyrics of Virgin State of Mind, "There's a key where my wonderful mouth used to be," suggests this androgynous, murderous vampire may be a dark reflection of gentle, insecure Willow's own nature, which is really, really cool to think about. The lyrics, if you listen to them, are talking about someone who's trapped inside of their own head and they finally break out and become their own person, which is really interesting.
Dang, wish I could say I paid that much attention to the song.
I loved it. I was like, I add that to my Spotify playlist. I was like, this is fire.
I just love the mirroring of anytime there's a creepy-esque villain in the show, they always come in and just observe in the Bronze.
Yeah, why do they always go to the Bronze?
That'd be so, well, it's a feeding area, I feel because everyone's just kind of crowded and you can easily grab someone outside.
Tension. Well, but I also feel can't vampires smell really well?
Yeah, the pheromones.
I feel it's a large group of people late at night and it's loud and you can smell them, they're sweaty, so they're probably
whoa, Leah, whoa, this is a kids show. No, I'm just kidding.
They're sweaty.
No,
kids don't know that people got sweaty.
No, I think in The Harvest and in Welcome to the Hellmouth, they specifically mentioned that the Bronze is a good feeding ground because you have a bunch of horny teenagers.
I think this would be so fun as an actor being one character for forever and then having to or being able to kind of flip the switch and then as the same character that you're playing, but also the shadow side of the character you're playing. So she is so Willow, but she's Vamp Willow, which is such a fun concept as an actor. I feel that'd be so fun to walk in and act like the villain for an episode, but you're still somehow your character at the same time. That's so fun.
Well, Right. Well, Allison Hannigan plays 4 different iterations of this character because she's got
Mhm.
Willow, then she's got Vamp Willow, then she's got Vamp Willow pretending to be Willow, and then she's got Willow pretending to be Vamp Willow. So it's like really fun.
I feel like they really, like, the directors and stuff really started to notice that, like, Allison Hannigan can act. And so they're like, let's give her all the roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Vamp Willow kind of bumps into Percy, or he bumps into her, and he's like, Rosenberg? What are you doing? Trick-or-treating? I think it's so funny when people call each other by last names. It can be either be like endearing or just kind of like demeaning. And he's like, does he even call her Willow?
They always have the jocks do it because they're like too cool to call them by their first
Yep.
name.
Or they act like they don't actually know them by their first name. They just know them by their last name. Like, half the time, I'm going to only know people's first name. How am I going to know your last name? Especially in high school. He's like, till we graduate, I own your ass. And she goes, bored now, which is what we've all been waiting for, and then tosses him
Mhm.
across the bronze. And then walks over there and picks him up by his like jaw and starts choking him. I'd be horrified if I were Percy.
I just like thinking about this through like Percy's perspective. He's like, what the heck is happening?
Well, could you imagine like little Willow just being like, okay, I'm gonna teach you, and then like you see her like in a club somewhere and she's like literally like choking you, like has the strength of like 10,000 men. You're like, what on earth?
And I think what does this too is the fact that she's doing it in front of everyone. I think if
Yeah.
it was like they were outside and she did it, he'd be like, what the hell are you trying to do? But it's
Right.
like in front of everyone. So he's like, wow, this girl has a lot of gall to do this in front of everyone.
Well, the hilarious part is we know that he goes back home immediately and writes the report.
Aw.
So I
He leaves
imagine-
early.
He like runs straight home and is like, which was about this? I don't know. She might kill me if I don't do it. So he does both of them, and he has like the bibliography and everything. Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
And then Xander comes in, tells him to get out.
Immediately thinks that Percy's the problem, not Willow.
I mean, I would too. If it's like a jock was like beating up on like tiny Willow that everyone loves, I'd think the same thing. Vampire Willow thinks it's Vampire Xander. I forgot that was a thing. And like starts touching him all weird. And he's like, Willow, this is verging on dirty touching. Don't want to fall back on old habits.
I'm really glad that they chose to bring Vamp Willow back and not Vamp Xander. Ugh.
Vamp Xander, I actually think he did a really good job. I feel like that'd be really cool to see the dynamic of both of them. But if you're going to bring one of them back, for sure, Vamp Willow.
I feel like that would have hurt Xander's self-esteem for the rest of the show.
Yeah, what little there is left.
Leah's under her little blanket cocoon over there like, screw Xander!
No, I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna pick between the two, like, Vamp Willow was way more of a contrast than Vampire Xander, and so
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
she's way more of an interesting pick anyways.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Xander is how I would imagine Vamp Xander to be. So it's not really that interesting. But the fact that like Vamp Willow is so opposite to normal Willow, it's very like, oh. Especially
Yeah.
since we have that little like comment from Angel later on that kind of implies that like the
Mhm.
personality kind of bleeds over. It's very interesting. You're like, oh, does Willow have this darkness in her?
Right. Also, I gotta say, shout out to whoever did the hair for this episode. Everybody's hair looked so freaking good. Even Xander's. I was kind of like, whoa. Like, Xander actually looks pretty good in this episode. And then Buffy's hair, it just like is curled and styled. Even Faith's, Willow's hair, it just, all of it was really good.
Oh, and then what Vamp Willow says to Buffy, she's like, I don't like you. And she's
Mhm.
like, Willow, I'm sorry about today. You know how my foot likes to live in my mouth, but you really didn't have to prove anything. Again, like Willow says something like very mean to Buffy, but she responds with, you don't really have to prove anything. Like very like reassuring and sweet. Like Buffy's just on a whole other empathetic level in this episode. And then Vamp Willow leaves. They try grabbing her and she turns around as a vampire and their faces are just...
Or Buffy. You just know
Mhm.
Buffy instantly takes that on herself.
Oh, yeah. And then the alleyway, some Vamp's corner Willow beats him up and starts breaking one of their fingers. And then they tell her that Willow's their master.
Which I'm really curious to know what they were actually going to try to do. Because the mayor sent them,
Yeah.
and it was because Willow was hacking into the files. So I wonder if they were going to try and scare her, if they were going to kill her. Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're going to try and bring her in and see what information she knows, and if she told anyone else, and then maybe kill her. I feel like that's what I would do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then we go to the library, and Buffy and Xander are all shaken up.
Joss said about this scene, he says, God, some of the funniest stuff we ever did was in that episode, but also the scene where they find out that Willow is alive and everybody is so goddamn funny. It's Giles, Xander, Willow, and Buffy, the fearsome foursome.
They all, like, the way that they all react and stuff is just so, it's funny, but it's also just so accurate and dramatic to each of their characters that it just kills me.
Well, like Giles goes, she was truly the finest of all of us. And then Xander goes, way better than me. He's like, much, much better.
The little, like, subtle, like, dig at him. He's like, much better, Xander.
But you notice how Xander doesn't respond like, how dare you? He just kind of was like, yeah.
I mean, that's what you do when someone dies. You're not going to, like, pitch, like, this whole argument when someone's literally, like, dead. You're like, you know what? I'll fall on the sword this time.
But I also think Xander actually is like, yeah, I think he really does think that Willow is better than him. The script says that Giles is trying not to cry. And then it says Giles sadly nodding much, much better.
And then Buffy mentioned she thinks it's their fault because they called her old reliable, and so she got herself killed. Oh. Then Willow comes in. She's like, what's going on? Geez, who died? Oh God, who died?
I know, literally, in Sunnydale, that's a very accurate reaction.
Right.
You're like, who died? And then you're like, oh, shoot, someone probably did die.
One of my favorite things that Xander has ever done, he does right after this. He runs up with the cross,
and then he
doesn't work as he shakes it. Yes, he
gotta get the juices flowing.
Well, as if it wouldn't work the first time. He's like, hold on, wait a minute, and then shakes it, and then puts it back up again.
Oh, the comedic timing and everybody is so good. It's so fun to watch.
They all embrace her, and she's all uncomfortable, and then they, like, let go, and then Giles runs in and gives her up.
I think this is the first time we've seen Giles, like, actually emotional.
Yeah. Right. Well, except when Jenny died, but yes. Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't really see him cry in Helpless, but yes.
But he was showing a lot of emotion. Yeah.
There's just like a tenderness that Giles has with Willow that I just absolutely adore. It's so neat how they have made Giles and Willow's relationship and Buffy and Giles's relationship so two distinctly tender things. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like the same relationship type with both of them. Like, it feels like he has two daughters, and he just treats them both with like the equal amounts of tenderness, but it's just a very different relationship, and I'm here for it.
Then Willow's like, say, y'all didn't do a bunch of drugs, did you?
Oh my goodness.
And then Buffy's like, Giles, can you jump in and say something? He's like, something very strange is happening. And Xander goes, can you believe the Watchers Council let this guy go? The dialogue is just so snappy.
Yeah, you can definitely tell Joss wrote this.
I was about to say, for as much as I hate Joss, you can tell it's an episode written by him. He kind of sometimes writes like Gilmore Girls.
Oh, Amy Sherman Palladino?
Yes, very, very quick pace and very like, it almost feels like a natural conversation. Well, at least between the three of us, where it's like very like fast and all over the place.
Well, it makes sense because Amy Sherman Palladino took a lot of stuff from Buffy, so.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And then we go to the Bronze, and then Anya's trying to get a beer. She's like, I'm 1120. Just give me a freaking beer. He's like, ID.
He just doesn't
he's
care.
Probably so annoyed because they're all underage teenagers trying to get drinks all the time. And he's like, I hate this job.
Gee, maybe you shouldn't have a bar that serves alcohol where a lot of underage kids like to hang out. You know, you're probably going to have that be a problem quite frequently.
So Dingo ate my baby. They're going to be performing tonight.
I love how they keep bringing Devin back.
I know. He's very consistent.
Yeah.
I love how Angel pops up and Oz is like, hey, looking for Buffy?
Well, it's so funny because Devin's like, man, we got to get a roadie. Other bands have roadies, like someone to help like lift our stuff. Well, then, you know, Angel pops up and Devin's like, hey, man, how'd you like to be our roadie? And Angel says, less than you'd think. Okay, I'm really mad. I didn't know that I wanted an Oz and Xander pairing as much as I did until I saw this scene. And I was like, dude, they work like so well
Their
together.
dynamics are very, very
Oh, you
good.
Oz and Angel? You said Oz and Xander.
Sorry, I meant Oz and Angel. Yes.
Yeah,
no, my
they
mind
work.
didn't even. I was on the same wavelength as you. I didn't say anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, they work really well together. They're like the soft supporting like boyfriends.
Everyone talks about how boring Angel is and how he isn't like very comedic, but he's got a really dry sense of humor that works really well with Oz's.
Oz looks petrified when Vamp Willow comes in. He looks like he's like frozen. And he's like, "Get Buffy, do it now." And the angel leaves immediately.
Yeah, this is Oz's version of panicking.
Oh, for sure. Devin comes up. He's like, "Dude, check out your girlfriend."
Yeah, like, Devin, shut up.
He's like, "Not the time right now, Devin."
Yeah, Devin, no. Read the room, Devin. Fear and pheromones.
I think he's a little bit like shook, but I think what really took the cake when she walks up to a girl named Sandy, and then kind of like lures her into like the middle of the dance floor. And
I
then
was like
bites her.
genuinely creeped out by this
Yeah.
part. It was like really creepy.
Well, so first she like licks her neck and then bites her, and then Oz like runs down, but someone has to pull him back.
Yeah, which is interesting because Oz has got to see that she's a vampire, but he's still trying to reason with her and still trying to like look for the humanity inside of her, which is I feel like a repeated pattern we've seen with people with their loved ones who have turned vampires.
Well, and then he goes, "Willow, you don't want to do this." She says, "I don't, but I'm so good at it." And he said, "Who did this to you?" I think he's trying to process in the same time too. I think
Poor
he's well aware
Oz.
that she's a vamp, but it's like it's one of those things where you know it, but I don't think you really
That's
absorbed it.
Like he's just trying to do his best.
He holds it together really well.
He
man.
does. I think when you're in the middle of a shock, I don't think like you're really in a stage ready to like cry about it and show a lot of emotion. I feel like I'd be the same if this happened.
I think he's also connecting the dots too, because, you know, Anya's talking about how he thinks you're the Willow that belongs in this reality. You know, this isn't your world. And so you could see Oz back there going, okay, wait a minute. And I think that's when he's starting to realize, okay, this might not be my Willow.
In the library, they're talking about Vamp Willow. Buffy mentions how like Willow's not a dominatrix, so obviously they're not the same person, you know, because 1 + 1 = 2. She mentions the whole like her and Oz play Mistress of Pain every night. Giles looks so uncomfortable.
I think it's just funny that like Giles just becomes privy to so much information that you can tell he never wanted.
He's like
he
forced.
just sits there and he's like, guys, like I am still your teacher.
Well, and then Xander's like, did anybody else just go to a scary visual place? And Buffy's like, oh yeah. And they flash over to Giles, who's cleaning his glasses, which he does when he like doesn't want to see or hear something. And he kind of lifts them slightly like, yeah, I got a really bad visual as well.
Angel comes in. He's like, you can tell he's like really burdened with telling this to Buffy.
He's trying so hard to be sensitive. And I think it like hurts him too. It's so funny. You don't see how much Willow means to everybody until, you know, she's dead.
He looks over. He's like, "Hey, Willow, wait a second." I really feel like that dialogue, if it wasn't coming out of like David Boreanaz's mouth, could sound really cheesy, but he did it in a very believable way.
I know I've mentioned this before, but I'm really loving the bits of personality we're starting to see come out of Angel, because I feel like he's becoming more than just Buffy's boyfriend. Like he's actively involved in things. He's actually starting to make jokes. He's helping out with the fights. He's doing research. And I don't know. I just am like really, really loving him. I always have, but even more so now.
He just feels more like a full character instead of just Buffy's love interest.
Yeah, agreed.
They all decide not to call on Faith to take care of this on their own. They're still not sure what they want to do with Vamp Willow if they catch her. They all walk into the hallway and Willow says that she forgot something. I'm so surprised they did not have like Xander or Buffy go with Willow. I'm like, what? You guys don't split up.
Yeah, it also is a little weird that she doesn't say what she needs to go back and get. Like, we never really know. I don't know. It's kind of, it just feels like complete plot convenience, but whatever. It works.
It's fine. She walks in and then Vamp Willow grabs her mouth behind her. I really feel like the split screen or however they do this with both Allison Hannigan's is so well done for like 99.
Yeah, no, it really is. You can tell there's something a little funky in some of the shots, but honestly, it's not distracting.
No.
I barely even noticed. I feel like this episode has like some of the best effects we've seen in the show so far.
Yeah, that one transition from Willow to Vamp Willow's face was really, really good. And we haven't seen a transition in a while.
You can see Vamp Willow is like observing the crap out of normal Willow. And she's like, well, look at me. I'm all fuzzy. She wants Willow to get her back because Anya told her that she does spells or magic. Then she licks her neck and she's like, no more. You're really starting to freak me out. This would be very freaky.
Yeah, Vamp Willow's a little too comfortable here with regular Willow. What's going on?
It's also funny because it's such a narcissist move to be into yourself.
I think she also likes the idea too of having like two of them so she can turn Willow. She's like, this is great. Like, we can cover more ground.
Mm-hmm. But I think she also wants Willow to want it as well. Like, she's not just turning her.
But I also feel like if she turned her, then she'd be just like that anyway. So I'd be like, if I were her, I'd be like, I'm just going to turn you. Like, you're going to be evil.
It's a cat and mouse thing. It's also fun to play with her because she's got that untapped innocence. And so she's like, oh, this is really fun.
Yep. And then they drag her into the cage. Apparently she found the gang again. And then they have that whole dialogue where Willow says, like, that's me as a vampire, so evil and skanky. And I think I'm kind of gay. And then Buffy goes like, well, remember, vampire's personality has nothing to do with the person it once was. And then Angel goes, well, actually,
Buffy
I like how Angel's just kind of like, you know what?
I'll let this go.
This is a topic for a different time. It's like, it's not worth it.
Buffy suggests that they switch outfits, which I feel like is a very gutsy move.
This whole thing is interesting because Passion of the Nerd talks about how Willow doesn't make a distinction between herself and Vamp Willow at this point in the episode. She says, that's me as a vampire. I'm so evil and skanky, and I think I'm kind of gay. And in a way, it's kind of confirming Angel's statement that the personality is the same, which I never caught that before. I was like, oh, yeah, it's not till like the end of the episode that she kind of switches and refers to the other vampire or the other doppelganger or whatever as her.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
So outside the bronze, Willow has on the tight leather. That thing does look very tight, like especially the corset. Leather on top of like a corset as well, and just it all being leather. I'm like, oof, that'd be some long days having to film with that outfit, switching back and forth.
I mean, haven't they like stated multiple times though that it's very cold on set a lot of times because they usually film like at night?
Yeah, it probably was comfortable, except maybe when you went inside of the bronze. But I think it's funny how her costume is even like somewhat similar. It's not exactly the same as the rocker chick outfit that she wore on Halloween when she was wearing that costume she wasn't comfortable with. And then you have, you know, this whole idea is really important because Willow's been talking about how, you know, she wants to be a little bit edgy. She wants to experience the bad girl persona. And so this is her chance to do that. And it's important because Willow's able to prove that she is useful and can be helpful in a fight, not just to Buffy, but to herself. And I think this is when she recognizes, hey, I can be assertive. Hey, I can do those things. Because if Vamp Willow can, then maybe that aspect of it is also me too.
Then she like mentions, she's like, oh gosh, look at those. And then again, Giles is like stuck in one of those uncomfortable situations.
Both Xander and Giles are like looking away.
I also just think it's funny because it's like, I think everyone forgets that like Giles is there a lot of times.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like Giles and the audience are the only two that are like,
Giles is like, everything I've learned about you guys has been against my will.
So they come up with this system where she's going to go in and try to get some vamps to come outside because they feel as though that there are way too many inside for all of them to go into, which I disagree. There's like 7 and then like 5 of them. Like, come on, guys. Really? But and then she's like, okay, I'm going to give you a signal. And they're like, what's the signal going to be? She's like, well, when I scream, which I feel like is a good signal because how else are they going to hear you?
Mm-hmm.
Then Willow walks in. I love the distinction of what Allison Hannigan did with like Vamp Willow and that, and then like Willow and Vamp Willow outfit, because she walks in, you can see her like super like stiff as if she has like a wedgie because like the outfit is uncomfortable on her, and everything she says sounds as if she has like a question mark at the end.
Yeah. As someone who has trouble like asserting themselves and saying what they want, she's like, why don't you go check? And I think maybe I heard something out there. And like she's very not confident.
Anytime there's a lull, she'll go and like talk to someone else, be like, that guy's been taking a long time. How about you go outside and get him?
And she like pats their back like she's trying to soften what she's doing.
I know.
Literally sending them to their death.
She tells Anya that she killed Willow, and Anya's like, why in the world would you do that? She's our only way of getting back. And I can see Emma Caulfield's like way of kind of processing what Anya's like observing in the scenes, because I can tell exactly where she's at in her processing of like, if this is Vamp Willow, if this is normal Willow the whole time.
We forget that Anya is the one who orchestrated all this because she just keeps kind of like popping in, and I like how she's just kind of popping in to see like, okay, is my plan working out? If it's not, I'm just gonna head out. Like, she kind of just causes chaos and then leaves.
Yeah, you could tell she's very disengaged. Like, she figures out and she says it, but you could tell she doesn't really care whether Willow dies or not. I think she's just like, well, there goes all hope of me ever getting back to where I came from. I don't know. She just is an interesting villain because she doesn't have a personal vendetta against these people. She literally just wants her amulet back.
Yeah. She's very bitter and she just wants to go home.
Gosh, this little wave that Willow does. Yeah, exactly like that, Leah.
I wish you guys could see. I have it down to a science.
Yes.
It literally reminds me of like when you're graduating and you see like your family sitting down. It's like a quick little like, hey, like hope no teacher yells at me.
It also was like not subtle at all. So I don't know what in the world.
I mean, Anya was behind her, but it definitely like, yeah. Well, it's in the middle of like her giving like this supposed to be menacing like monologue, and she's like, I don't like that you dare question me, Waves. She bothered me, so weak and accommodating.
Devin like hiding behind the drums.
I know. And then Anya kind of like looks around because she keeps sending out other vamps, and you see her like looking at the vampire and looking back at her and being like, this seems kind of fishy. Back in the library, Vampire Willow wakes up inside the cage, and Cordelia comes in like all glam. She's like, Wesley, are you here? Just returning a book.
Happens
Totally
to be
just
by for
passing
books.
through.
Her dress is like shiny and like bedazzled.
It's like a cocktail dress.
And then Vampire Willow looks so freaking bored throughout this whole thing. This episode is so painted with very different types of comedic aspects, because like Cordelia comes in, they're like talking or whatever, and then she gets over to get the key, is about to unlock her, and she's like, you know what, I realized we never had a heart to heart, women to women. She's like, let's talk about the ethics of boyfriend stealing. And then it jumps and she's sitting in a chair and has made herself some coffee and is still talking.
Even though I feel like the placement of this episode is kind of odd, I do like the fact that like the last few episodes have been so heavy that it is kind of nice to have a bit of a refresher.
Yeah, even though it's not technically Willow, I think it's good that Cordelia got a chance to talk about that because I think that is important for her moving on. But the way that Charisma says this, she's like, what could we talk about? Hey, I know. How about the ethics of boyfriend stealing?
I wish that because I didn't even realize it until this scene, but I wish we had a moment of Willow and Cordy having a reconnected moment, or just like Willow apologizing because that's still her friend too. Like there was nothing between them two, like not even one interaction I can think of that was like pleasant. I don't really think we see them interact at all.
Well, I don't know that Willow and Cordelia ever really were friends. The only thing
but she's in the friend group.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think the only reason Cordelia was in the friend group was because of Xander.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they were.
But she's still in the friend group. You know what I mean? Like it's still shady. Like I don't know. Like I would apologize.
Right. I definitely still think Willow should have apologized, but I don't think she should have apologized because they were friends. I think she should have just apologized because it was the right thing to do, and she did something wrong.
I'm like, oh, like Cordelia got to like pour her heart out, and I'm sad that it wasn't like actually Willow in that situation.
Yeah, I feel like that happens quite frequently.
Oh, man, freaking Whedon gives us what we want, but at the wrong time and not exactly what we want. I'm like, can you not do that sometimes? Like every once in a while, I do want something that I actually want without repercussions. We go back to the bronze, and Willow's like, hey, I don't know if I feel like killing anymore. I'm so bored. And then she walks by and her fingers get stuck in a girl's hair.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
The comedic timing. I just cannot.
Her saying I'm so bored is just interesting too, because bored now was what, the evil vamp Willow said. So I think they're trying to like show little parallels between the two sides of Willow.
And then Anya, you could see there was like a click moment where she's like, wait a minute, nice try. And then we go back into the library and Cordelia's sitting there with coffee.
She's using Giles's green mug that he uses all the time too, which is the best. She
Oh,
had to go
really?
she had to go back in his office and get it's probably tea. Oh, so funny.
And I love what she says here. She's like, it's not like I was attracted to Xander. It's just that we kept being put in these life or death situations, and that's always all sexy and stuff. I do think that obviously she was attracted to Xander. Obviously she wanted to date him, yada, yada, yada. But I do think there is a merit to what she's saying about the life or death situations. I really do think that that is what kept them going for longer.
It's definitely what got them into the situation in the first place. I mean, they were trapped in Buffy's basement, and what was the other kiss? Then they reconnected at the end of the summer
Bewitched.
and Bewitched. And there's just multiple instances where they probably would not have gone as long as they had if they hadn't been caught in those situations.
And we saw them as a couple were a lot more toxic than healthy. I think that's pretty fair to say. And so I feel like if the relationship was only like that and they frustrated each other, and if there was no as much heat between them, I really feel like if you're being stuck in life or death situations in a toxic relationship, it makes you kind of disguise the passion with just I find them so sexy right now because I thought I was going to die. You know what I mean? You having passion for somebody is way different than the latter.
Yeah.
And then she opens up the cage and Vamp Willow gets out. And she starts chasing her into a classroom, and she's barricading herself with the desks. She's like, I didn't mean all that I said before. You can have Xander. My blessings on you both.
My blessings on you both. I like to imagine Alexis Denisoff and Allison Hannigan watching this episode 25 years later, and they're, married with their two girls, and look, guys, this is where mommy and daddy met. And this is the moment that mommy realized she had a massive crush on daddy when he would to her.
So funny. Well, because he's walking and then he hears a scream and he just completely jumps and drops his briefcase.
Alexis Denisoff's comedic timing is just absolutely fantastic.
He runs into the bathroom with a cross and holy water, and she's like, whatever.
I love how even Vamp Willow's he's not even worth it. He's not even worth the time. He's such a weenie that everyone is just kind of okay, sure, Wesley.
Well, then after he saves Cordelia scares him.
Yeah, right. And he's sorry, men in combat, trying to justify why he's jumpy.
And then back at the bronze, Anya is saying that the vamp should eat Willow because she doesn't think Willow's actually Vamp Willow. Oz slowly sneaks up behind her, which is such a good detail because he's very in tuned. He's realizing, obviously he's realized for a while that this is actually Willow, and he can sense that things are gonna kind of go crazy, so he's slowly walking up behind her as a support.
He's gonna protect her. And you notice how even when Willow is doing and saying all this stuff, I watched Oz for most of it because I was curious to see how he would react to when she screams and then she's could a human do this? And they're oh yeah, I say a human could do that, and all that stuff. I was curious if Oz would crack up or whatever. He doesn't take his eyes off of Willow because he's ready for one of them to pounce. And I was oh my gosh, so hot.
And then everyone comes in, and the choreography of this fight scene, I was looking at it. So good.
It's super intense. I feel like it's to a level of intensity we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
There's just something about whenever they have Angel and Buffy fighting side by side, I feel I don't know if it's because they have Jeff and Sophia, who are an actual couple, fighting and doing a lot of the stunts.
It's very dynamic.
And I think that chemistry
you can
translates.
See the chemistry, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's why it gets ramped up. But oh my goodness.
I also think because they're a married couple, they have this trust. And so they're not I would assume they're not spending the whole time being oh shoot, is this gonna work? Or, I'm not trying to scare the other person. I feel they both know each other well enough to be oh, okay, if he does something, I trust him not to hurt me.
But also I think they go a little bit harder because there's that whole competitive side. Yeah, it's really good. I love how intense it is. It's very similar. I feel the energy is very similar to what happened at the end of Bad Girls when they were fighting Balthazar's people.
That's a good point. I'd never thought about the fact that they're a married couple, which because anytime they fight together, it's my eyes are glued to both Angel and Buffy. I just keep thinking of Becoming Part 2, but there's so many other situations where I'm it's just dynamic. True. That's true. A lot of my favorite scenes are them fighting each other or fighting with each other. Willow punches Anya and then immediately her hand hurts. And then Oz like drags her up the stage. MVP of this episode. Devin's trying to climb up the sunroof.
He's trying to do what he saw Angel doing. Not gonna work for you, bud. Sorry.
Oh gosh. And then Vamp Willow punches out both Oz and Devin and they both fall over. And then she does the same with Willow. Xander stakes a vamp. I was like, good for Xander.
Yeah. Everyone kind of gets a moment. Did you guys see Giles and Xander trying to stake that vamp? And then Giles at one point like does the most dramatic staking I've ever seen. He like lifts it and arches his back and just like comes down. I was dying. I rewound it and made Andrew watch because I was cracking up.
He's been out of the game too long.
Yep. Vampire Willow's like choking Willow out. This is a long choking. I really feel like she would have passed out by now. Buffy sees Vamp Willow choking Willow from across the bronze, and she has to like sprint all the way over there. Right as Buffy's about to stake Vamp Willow, Willow calls out and asks her not to. Vamp Willow says this world's no fun, and Willow says, you notice that too? I love that interaction. You can kind of tell that they're like kind of blending a little bit. Like they're not like polar opposites. I think that they're two sides of a coin. So like one side is obviously void of like all humanity, but they're still able to feel emotion. So I feel like this moment, like they're both feeling the same thing, but their vices and how they act out is completely different.
Multiple people have pointed out that Buffy was able to stop herself, unlike Faith in Bad Girls. And Willow says the exact same thing that Buffy says to Faith. But it's also interesting to note that Buffy's saying, well, I work out at the, like in a couple minutes later when Willow says nice reflexes and stuff. It is a clever line, but it also could show that Buffy took Faith's mistake to heart and has been actively working on herself and her reflexes to make sure she doesn't fall for the same thing. Because it's shown from the beginning of the episode, like Buffy keeps talking about how like she doesn't want Faith to one up her in the evaluations and stuff, but I think there's also a level of Buffy doesn't want to fall into the same trap that Faith did and is trying to make sure she never ends up there, which I kind of like both interpretations.
Then we go to the warehouse ? The one that's supposed to be in both parallel universes that we've never seen before.
I don't know where that is. Yeah,
it looks funny. Exactly the same.
I've been kind of confused about that, but I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a flawless episode. We can let that one go. Xander asks if people are afraid of the Xander and her world, and she just looks at him and he's like, oh yeah, I'm bad.
And Angel's back there like, oh, come on, buddy. Being a vampire is not all it's cracked up to be here.
Buffy isn't sure about releasing her into the wild. But Will says that she can't kill her. What do you guys think about this? Where would you fall in the spectrum of this? If you had a doppelganger, like killing vampire, would you want to kill her?
I'd kill him. Still a vampire. It would be hard because it's like you see yourself, but she's still a vampire and she's still killing people.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not exactly like it's me. Like, I died the minute I became a vampire.
Well, Willow says, like, in her world, she can stand a chance. But, like, what chance does she have? She's a vampire.
Does that also mean hurting innocent people, too? Like, there's a lot there.
What do you mean?
Like, if they send her back saying she has a chance to live, does that mean that she's going to hurt innocent people, you know?
Right.
Someone mentioned that Giles has an understanding of the temporal fold because he knew like what they had to do to reverse the spell. So there's a chance that Giles knew sending this vamp Willow back she was just going to die anyway, because the idea is that he had to have asked Anya about it. And so that's why he's willing to allow it. But it does feel like something, I think Buffy's doing it because it's what Willow wants. But I think if Buffy was the one making the call, I think she would have staked Vamp Willow with no remorse and would not have let her go back. But I do think this conversation here, and she says, there, but for the grace of getting bit, we sent her to her world. She has a chance. It's the way it should be anyway. Buffy's definitely thinking of Faith. And I think that's the underlying message here is Willow is unwilling to kill Vamp Willow, just the same as Buffy is unwilling to put harsher consequences on Faith because she sees a bit of herself. And so I think that's why they didn't just kill Vamp Willow. And I think through it, Willow's able to understand Buffy a little bit better now, as well as herself, and she's learning to accept herself for who she is.
That's true. Anya kind of has this like when I get my powers back, you'll all grovel before me.
You'll all pay.
Poor Anya has become such a joke.
I know.
Everyone's like, oh, okay, Anya. Like good old Anyanka, just acting out as usual. And then they send her back. It's like at the very end of the wish. Did they have to go back and like redo all of this?
No, they just had to do the part where Oz stakes Willow because it's clearly somebody with a wig. It might be Seth Green, it might not be, but it's different hair.
Oh, really?
Well, because Seth Green has dark hair now.
Oh, he had red hair in that episode? You're right.
Like,
yeah, he did.
Blonde, yeah.
So we're back outside school in the grassy area, and then Willow goes back to her normal self, and she's like feeling guilty about all her responsibilities. And then she's like, I'm just going to, do my homework, go to bed early, die a virgin.
Well, Willow's saying, I see where the path of vice leads. She messed up everything she touched. I don't ever want to be like that. Again, that's very similar to Faith and Buffy in Bad Girls and Consequences.
Well, then Willow mentions like how she feels extra guilty for both herself and Vampire Willow because she feels like she's tied with that, which is how Buffy's feeling right now with Faith.
Mm-hmm.
And then Percy comes up. He's like, oh, so I did the outline on Roosevelt, but I realized I didn't know which Roosevelt we were talking about, so I did it on both of them. And he hands her like different like folders. He hands like one folder for an outline, another folder for another outline.
It's probably the most shoddy work ever because he's just frantic and scared doing it.
He's like, I know they're kind of short, but I can flesh them out. And here's the bibliography. He hands her another one. And I can retype that if you want. Just let me know what I did wrong and I'll get on it. And he walks away, but then realizes he forgot something, turns around, and puts an apple on her lap.
I know. He's like, wow, who Willow is after school hours is someone completely different from Willow at school.
He's like, no wonder why they hired her as a tutor.
Yeah. Right.
He's like, her method is definitely unorthodox, but it's working.
It's effective.
And then Buffy goes, you want to go out tonight? She's like, 9 sound good? And the episode goes black.
I think one of my favorite things about this episode is that I think it's good as a reminder for us girls in particular. It's good for us to remember to assert ourselves. Obviously, the methodology in which Vampire Willow is asserting herself do not condone 100%. But I think Willow learned that she needed to stick up for herself a little bit and that she can't let people walk all over her and that she needs to not find her identity in how she can help people and fix things. And so, I don't know, my takeaway from this whole thing was like, because I tend to be not great about asserting myself, is that like, it's good to say no. Like, no is a complete sentence. But I think Willow learned to be a little bit more assertive. And I'm kind of excited to see where she goes from that.
What a good episode. One of my favorites of season 3.
All right, guys, that was Doppelgangland. That was an excellent episode that I really enjoyed talking about, not just from like a deeper perspective, but just because it's so fun. So let us know what you guys think. Do you guys love Doppelgangland? Is it one of your favorite episodes? You can find us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Tumblr at Becoming Buffy Podcast. You can email us at becomingbuffypodcast@gmail.com. And stick around, guys, because the spoiler section is right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to Becoming Buffy. Today we are talking about the spoiler section of Doppelgangland. So as we ease further into season 3, I feel like we're going to have less and less to talk about spoilers-wise because we don't want to talk too much about what we're going to experience in graduation day and prom and all that other stuff. But there are a few things to be talking about in this episode. Mainly, Anya is back and we meet Dahofren for the first time, which I always love because I feel like Dahofren he's not necessarily a major character, but I feel like he's one of the bigger minor reoccurring characters. And then every time he shows up, something big is going to happen in that episode.
Yeah, it's crazy to watch this episode and see what happens after this, like with Dahofren, with Anya, and like all this stuff. And I think as frustrating as Anya's character becomes to me in season 7. I will say it's consistent. I just kind of wish that they had given her growth a little bit.
So the couple things about Anya and DeHoffrin in particular, in Something Blue, we see DeHoffrin again, and Anya actually brings everyone to this mausoleum that we see her in right now with DeHoffrin in this episode, to find him because he's the one that approaches Willow about becoming a vengeance demon in that episode, which I absolutely love because I think Willow would have made a fantastic vengeance demon if that's what she had chosen to do. Really glad she didn't.
I always forget that that's a storyline or like that's like a scene. And I love that that's in there because I also just think it kind of brings Willow down. Like, wow, the thing that I've judged other people for doing, I could be doing. Like, it's just like one of those things where it's like she had so much like rage in her and was kind of okay with taking it out that like even the person who was like recruiting vengeance demons was like, we want you.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Could you guys imagine if they, instead of doing like the Dark Willow storyline arc, in the sense that like she uses magic, it's like an addiction and all that stuff, she used it to kind of soup herself up. If she, in such a rage, she had called on DeHoffrin and said, hey, I want to become a vengeance demon now. And then that whole Dark Willow persona had been a vengeance demon.
Well, that
thing.
would have been, there's no way they would have been able to come back from that one. And here's why. It's because they can kind of excuse the whole magic thing because it's addiction, and like in a mystical sense, addiction is like a disease. It's something that is extremely hard to
break out of.
Yes, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, sure. But I think if it was out of her own free will to go to somebody and to choose to be a vengeance demon, I feel like we would have had a very different Willow and a very different outcome out of her quote unquote Dark Willow stage. I really feel like it would really be hard to come out of that because it's hard because it's different than Willow choosing to be a vengeance demon and Anya falling back on that because that's what Anya knows. And she was in a place of feeling very dark and feeling very lonely. And so she fell back on that. But she also, I mean, this is a spoiler section. I was like, oh no, I can't say that. No, but like with Anya, it was like that's what she was doing for 1,000 years. And that's what she fell back on. But also like she didn't kill anyone for a while. She felt bad about it. And then when she did, she took it all back. And so I think there's a bit of a difference if Willow chose to do that. And Willow fought on the good side for years and years and years. I think it's very different for her to do that.
Yeah, I agree that it would have been very different. I don't know that it would have been impossible to have her come back. And I don't know if we talked about it on here, but my thing with the Dark Willow arc is I feel like it didn't go as hard as it could have. And I know that sounds
wanted more.
No, I agree.
I
agree. Here's the thing. That episode where she kills Warren, I'm like, yes. Finally.
Rip his skin off.
Not only did I want Warren to die, but also I was like,
I didn't even bat an eye. I was like, sure, girl.
I was like, woo!
Go off, queen.
I feel like, honestly, as much as this sounds awful, I feel like Willow should have killed Jonathan.
No,
only because I love Jonathan,
and that's why she should have killed him.
But I think that people
go darker,
overlook the fact that Willow killed someone because it's Warren.
Yeah,
or Andrew.
And I think no, keep Andrew because Andrew's whole arc and everything is amazing. But I feel like Jonathan dying with Warren or like right after Warren, like in the same episode or whatever, or in the next episode, would have been jarring because he's someone who's been in the season, like all show long, and he's really is a victim. Like he's done bad things, but he really is a victim of his circumstances. And so to see Willow kill someone who isn't evil, that would actually be like she crossed a line. Because it escalates so fast from like killing one person to like, I'm going to overtake the world. And it felt like a little gimmicky. Whereas if I feel like if it was like she killed Warren and then the next episode she killed Jonathan and then went to kill the world, I would have been like, whoa, Like, that would have felt like a more natural escalation to me. But I feel like they didn't want to go too dark because they were afraid to bring her back from that. But I feel like people are so, like, people forget. Like, by the time she comes back, I've heard before when she comes back in season 7 that people were like, they were like, she didn't even really do many things wrong. I'm like, guys, she killed someone. Like, yes, it was Warren, but like, she killed someone. Because the whole, like, I'm gonna kill the world type thing is so gimmicky to me.
Yeah, I think it who was it that I was listening to? It was Slay Girl, it was Rob. You guys should listen to his YouTube channel, by the way. It's really,
he
really
has a
good.
YouTube channel now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Good for
he's
him.
been doing, it's really good. It's I think VHS Graveyard is what it's called. So shout out to Rob. But it's really good because he's been going through each of the episodes. I think he started in season 6 and is doing season 6 and 7. He was talking about tonally why season 6 is so different and why it's darker. And his stance, he's actually a screenwriter. So he said from his perspective, he doesn't feel like season 6 is as well written. And it's not because it's darker material. It's just genuinely not as well written. And he uses like the Dark Willow speech as an example, especially after she gets all juiced up from Giles. He talks about how her whole thing was started because Tara died. It starts out because of grief. And then all of a sudden it shifts to, oh, I have to go kill the whole world. And he's like, okay, so what are we supposed to be feeling here? Is it supposed to be grief, or is it supposed to be anger? Is it supposed to be vengeance? Is it supposed to be like, and obviously we can feel all those things. And I feel like I'm not doing him justice in talking about this, but he made a really good point about how it's very hard for us to resonate with what exactly Willow's feeling in that moment. Because why does she want to go kill the whole world after seeing her girlfriend die?
Always how I felt. I always wished that instead of like the whole world, which I love the Crayon speech. However, I feel like it could have been done. I feel like what could have happened is instead of doing the whole world, she could just be like, okay, I'm going to target like all criminals or something like that, where it's like
something more
nuanced. Something more nuanced, and it's still kind of in the realm of like everyone who's hurt someone the way I've been hurt is going to be like this.
Which is why I think a vengeance gig would be really good, maybe. Like,
but
instead of killing all men, I'm going to go kill all of, like, she comes back to Hoffman with a counter offer of, I'm not going to go, like, I'm going to be a specific kind of vengeance demon. You know what I mean?
I don't think she needed to be a vengeance demon. I feel like she still could have set up a big, like, spell, and there still could have been that speech with Xander, but I feel like it could have been way more impactful if it was like, she was like, I'm only targeting these amount of people, but it's still going to be a huge amount of people.
Yeah.
I just like the whole world was like, okay, like, what did the world do to you?
Well, she could have been like egged on by the fact that Andrew and Jonathan are being protected, which would have been cool because she's like, why are you protecting these people that like helped in so many criminal things, which is true. Like, Jonathan and Andrew are not perfect human beings, even though I love Jonathan, like especially in high school, Jonathan, I really feel for him. He does do a lot. He's very, what's the word? Like compliant.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff that happens. Yes, he feels guilty once the girlfriend says the actual word.
Katrina.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's like, oh shoot. Like, but it's like, you literally stole a woman and you're erasing her will. Like, and then she says the word and you're like, oh, that would have been an interesting storyline. I never thought about that, you guys. Like, that's so true, because it's like, why are you wanting to kill the whole world? But I would have been cool if she was like, why are they protecting these people who have done very wrong things? Like, I'm just going to eradicate all of that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. And then it would have also created a more of a, gray layer to Dark Willow, because they went so full on with the super villain, bad.
True.
And it would have been so much cooler if Willow had been over there like Buffy, like if she challenged Buffy and said, Buffy, you think you're all powerful, and she brought up the rhetoric that even like Joyce has talked about, that even who's the other villain that's talked about? I think is the mayor or Glory. Someone's brought up to Buffy that like, you're just one girl, you're not able to do much. You weren't able to stop Tara's death. You can't even stop the humans. So I'm going to do something that you can't do. And I'm like, in a way,
she's still challenging Buffy.
Yeah.
But it's not in a, like, I'm going to go to kill the world, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's like I'm angry that no one stopped what happened to my girlfriend, so I'm going to make sure that never happens to anyone else.
Right. And I can see how they wrote it as it was supposed to be Willow being kind of like, oh, everyone's suffering, everyone's feeling so much pain. I don't want them to feel the pain that I have felt, so I'm going to go kill them. But there was no like gentle transition. It was just all of a sudden she went from so much rage to, oh, there's pain, so I'm just going to destroy the world. And I feel like we could have spread that out through a couple episodes or done something different or gone in a completely different direction. I don't know. That we'll talk about when we get there. Whew, this took a turn. But yeah, I just think it's just very interesting that we see Dahafren recognizing that there is something in Willow that would make a great vengeance demon, and that later goes to Dark Willow. Also, Xander has a type, which I think is hilarious. We already knew he did, but that just makes it even funnier. Okay, and then since we're talking kind of about Dahafren and Willow and all that stuff, it's I love that we have board now in this episode, because that is 100% what Dark Willow says before she kills Warren in season 6, the whole board now thing. And that lends credence to what Angel is saying in this episode about how your vampire side isn't completely 100% different from who you are as a human, that it still takes aspects and attributes and personality characteristics and traits from who you were and kind of absorbs that with the demon that inhabits your body. And so I think that by tying together those phrases of board now between Vamp Willow and Dark Willow, it shows that Willow's always had those capabilities, which I think is very interesting. Okay, so a couple of things. Like we talked, I think it was Leah, who talked a little bit about how you felt like Anya's written a little bit inconsistently. And I agree, because Dahafren specifically references later on in the seasons about how Anya was his favorite. But here he's like willing to drop her like she's hot. And he's like, you know, I'm not going to give you a chance and stuff. And it's like, if Anya was so good at her job for thousands of years, why would he be like, I'll just go get another one? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I was about to say, unless she had been kind of like screwing up a lot and this was his last
job.
I could see that.
I mean, I don't know. The way that Anya was talking about it, she's like, for 1,000 years, I wielded the power of the wish. Like, it just makes it seem like this is the first time that she's messed up. I don't know. It just is kind of funky, but whatever. It's such a small, minor thing. Also, another fun fact about this episode, this is the 50th episode of the series. David Boreanaz, Charisma Carpenter, and Alexis Denisof are all going to appear on the 50th episode of Angel, and that's the episode Billy with that really creepy guy, talks about misogyny and stuff. Okay, and then I think I know what you're going to say about this, Tabs, but Willow and Anya never fully like each other, and that will be explored more in Triangle, and we kind of see the beginnings of that in this episode. And it's never really fully said why they don't like each other. And I mean, I have my suspicions.
I always thought that they didn't like each other because Anya didn't like Willow because she knows that Willow and Xander had a thing. And I think it's just she's kind of not necessarily jealous, but I think she's very wary of their relationship.
Sure.
And then I think that Willow just doesn't like Anya because they didn't have a good first impression, and she ultimately always views her as a vengeance demon and as temporary in Xander's life.
I disagree. I don't think that Anya thinks that about Willow, because if she did, that'd be dumb. Like, Willow is literally like in multiple relationships with women. I think it's just like one of those things.
Here you go.
I know we've talked about this. We really don't need to go on another tangent. I just like sometimes I get really frustrated with the women relationships in the show. And if it's a feminist show, why are we having so much random weird male energy between two girls? Like you're not sizing up your dicks next to each other. Can we just be like nice? Like but it's a feminist show. Like I'm like, you know what I mean? Like it's actually one of those things that really bugs me about the show. I don't know it, and especially like Anya. Like I do like Anya, and there are times where I get why Willow would be frustrated and or annoyed with Anya. I totally understand it. Like a good example would be the body. It's like when she's saying things and she doesn't understand how could be hurtful, how that could be insensitive, and she processes things differently. I understand from Willow's perspective how that could seem very like frustrating. It's one of those things that looking back is a huge fault of the show for being a feminist show, and a lot of the girls just don't really get along. It's like usually like one pair of the girls get along and then they don't get along with the others as much, or we have zero screen time with them, and all the guys are fine and dandy.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a book came out this week. Well, this week, our time. By the time this comes out, it'll be a couple weeks. But it's by Evan Ross Katz. It's called Into Every Generation, and it's to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Buffy. And he actually includes his own analysis of the show, but he talks a lot about this topic in particular. He talks about Joss. He interviews Sarah Michelle Gellar heavily for this book, which is really, really cool.
Really?
Yeah, you guys should check it out. It's very good. Danny Strong talks about this, the actor who played Jonathan. And he has one quote in particular. I don't have it on hand with me, and I will find it for you guys. But he talks specifically about how he believes that a lot of Joss's issues and stuff come from the fact that he has issues with power, ironically, and like Joss himself has been quoted saying how like he thought he was like smarter than the pretty girls in his class, in his film classes that he took, and how he would intentionally and purposely sleep with pretty girls and then break their hearts because it gave him a semblance of power over them. And how on set, there's like Charisma's talked about this. I think Sarah's talked about this. A couple other people have, but Joss was very cliquish, and he would purposely pit girls against each other behind the scenes on set because they gave him some sick sense of twisted pleasure. Because I think there was this idea that he was bitter and angry about the fact that, girls didn't give him the time of day when he was younger, or whatever reason it was. No excuse, whatever the reason is. And Danny like really kind of pinpoints this. I do need to find that quote. And talks about how he goes, you really saw the actresses being pitted against each other. And I think that translates to on screen, how the writers are writing the relationships on there. You don't really, as the show goes on and as the relationships became more frayed in real life, you start to see that reflected in even the way the characters are written and stuff. And I mean, I think in the earlier seasons, that is Cordelia's character, because Joss didn't like Cordelia. But as time goes on, you're starting to watch all of the females not really getting along on screen, with the exception of Willow and Tara. And I mean, I've talked before about how I think there are some like really good moments between Dawn and Willow, Dawn and Buffy, things like that. But yeah, there's just like, there's always this like underhanded way of writing these female characters. And I really think that stems back to Joss just being absolutely vindictive and petty and an incel.
I totally see that. It sucks that we had Joss, and I know that he is like a genius when it comes to these things. A lot of the writing, a lot of how the show went is due to him, so I'm not going to take that away. But just hearing about these things makes me really angry for the type of show that he is making, because I'm like, what's the point of making a feminist show if you're not going to do it the way it's supposed to be done, or just treat people equally behind the screen? Like, it's just like you're putting off these like themes and ideas and storylines that really helped people like me growing up watching it, and then knowing that that didn't happen behind the scenes, it really makes me angry. And I'm sure that like it's been, I don't want to project, but like maybe it was very hard for a lot of these actors like after the show to like kind of like maintain like a healthy idea of that person, because I get it, if you're in a toxic environment, it's hard to see every person in that situation fairly and to see them like as for who they are, as someone who's a victim of that as well. But I really feel like recently a lot of these actors have like rekindled because of stuff that's happened with Joss Whedon, and that has made me really happy. So, but at what cost? They had to go through years of a toxic environment and abuse in a lot of ways. So
there's a huge section of the book that actually talks about, we've talked about Cynthia Bergstrom. And I don't know if I've talked about it on here, but I did know about how Sarah and Cynthia actually fought really hard for the Buffy bots outfit to be not quite as sexual. There's a quote that like Cynthia Bergstrom actually talks quite a bit in the book. And one of the things that she talked about was she actually quit in season 6. She was not the costume designer in season 7 because she felt like it was just getting so dark and it wasn't enjoyable to her anymore. And when she met with Joss to hand in her resignation, he told her, "I'm surprised you lasted this long. I was going to fire you anyway because you're too close to Sarah."
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, too close to the actress?
Well, okay,
Hello?
so apparently she always was stuck between Joss and Sarah because Joss would want to do something and Sarah would be like, "No, I don't think that's how Buffy would dress. I think Buffy needs to do this," or whatever. But Cynthia would usually stick with Sarah because she felt like her loyalties were always with Sarah and things kind of got bad between them. She also confirmed that Joss and Sarah didn't have the best relationship since early on in the show.
Shocker.
She talks about how Joss would get really angry with Sarah and the things that she would ask for. And there is one time where he, like with the Buffy bot incident, he did grab Cynthia's arm really hard in anger. And this is all something that Joss actually talks, like the interviewer asked Joss about this in his interview back in January or whenever that came out. And Joss was like, "Oh, I never remember doing that," or whatever.
Of course you did.
Yeah. But Cynthia, was very conflicted in talking about this stuff because she didn't want to let the fandom down. But it's just very, very problematic that even with things like that behind the scenes, Joss had to have so much control to the point where he literally was pitting women against each other, even behind the scenes. And so like that reflects in the characters themselves, how there's women constantly against each other. And it's really, really sad. I know Emma Caulfield in the book wrote about how when everything came out about Joss in 2018, her first thought was, finally, she's like, I can't believe like people haven't seen all this stuff beforehand. And yeah, it's just really sad. Really, really sad. So the last thing I have is the girl that Willow kills in this episode, the one that she like pulls from the table as Vamp Willow and pulls into the center of the room and like bites as kind of a show. The character's name is actually Sandy, and she shows up again as a vampire in Family and then again in Shadow. So even though we don't see it on screen, the implication I think is either they brought back the same actress or they intentionally were like, hey, let's have Vamp Willow sire someone. And the last time we see her is actually in Shadow, and she's the first vampire that Riley cheats on Buffy with. That whole convoluted metaphor. He lets her feed on him and then he kills her and stakes her in the chest. So little fun fact for you all.
I think I knew that because when I saw her, I was like, oh yeah, that's the chick that feeds on Riley. Oh, that episode. Season 5 is so good, and that episode just makes me so mad.
It's not an episode. It's multiple episodes.
I'm talking about the specific episode where like he leaves and like he gaslights the frick out of her, and then like Xander gives her a whole speech of saying what did he really say? I have no idea. Like, it's supposed to be inspirational, and
it's not that episode. It's not that episode. It's the episode where it's Shadow. It's the one where
I know. I'm just saying that I thought of like the episode of when she finds
woods.
out, and then like
yeah.
Ugh.
Yep.
Riley. What's his last name? Do we know? Oh, Finn. Riley Finn.
Yeah. I'm ready to freaking shout on Riley, honestly.
We have like objectivity.
No,
Forget that.
I will be objective, but I also like the first time I watched him, I was objective. Like I know prior like anything, and I just watched him and I hated him.
I think you just hated him because he was an angel.
No, I didn't. Literally, when he was first introduced, I was like, oh, he's fine, like whatever. But then he just started getting so annoying.
We'll see. I'm excited to talk about it. But all right, guys, that is the spoilers for Doppelgangland. That was actually really fun. I thought we talked about some really good stuff. Next week, we will have enemies, and our brother David will be back. You all love it when he's there. We love it when he's there. The energy is always so good. It's going to be fun. So yeah. Let us know your guys' thoughts of this episode. Let us know if you guys think that Vengeance Willow would have been really interesting, or at the very least, better than what we ended up getting. You guys can email us at becomingbuffypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Tumblr at Becoming Buffy Podcast. Definitely talk to us. Let us know. Don't forget to review and rate and subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you find your podcasts. But as always, guys, have a great week, and we will talk to you next time.